Good day to you, good evening. Today I want to look at some more factors on geopolitical sociological lines. I want you to look at the effects of the present COVID phenomenon. Now you know that the Great Barrington Declaration, headed by the Professor of Epidemiology Sunetra Gupta of Oxford, and Harvard epidemiology professor and another famous professor headed the Great Barrington Declaration, and it also has about 5,000 other academics signing it up, besides many 80,000, 100,000 laymen. And their point is that the shutdowns are leading to a designed and undesirable end. So they are suggesting other measures. Then the World Doctors Alliance that is headed by Professor Dolores Cahill, one of the most reputed professors on biomeditech, vaccines and that kind of stuff. She's one of the world authorities, topmost on it. They are also saying that the way the hydroxychloroquine was criminalized was for an agenda. Now, while those are opinions, you have your opinion and I have my opinion. Now let's look at exactly what has happened. One, with the COVID phenomenon, e-commerce has just bloomed, and e-commerce modules have become ultra rich. Poor have become poorer. One would have thought poor couldn't have become any poorer, because 99% of the world's GDP is anyway handled by 1% of the globally rich. However, that's what has happened. Poor have become more poor. Then food is getting exorbitant. Now, this has been described in 4 phenomena presented as apocalyptic megatrends, with a white horse, a red horse, a black horse, and a pale horse. And in that presentation, white horse has a rider who has a bow with invisible arrows. So that's the ideological warfare, getting into the mindsets of people to conquer them and establish a global rule. The red horse has a sword in his hand, a very big sword, and the color red, one would think, is a bloodshed. Some may think communist regimes and so on. And in this same presentation, the word dragon is used many times. So we know the country that is most connected with the dragon is China. Now, at this point, I want to say I don't want to have any prejudice. I am only looking at the discourse of apocalyptic hoofbeats. Why are they called apocalyptic? They suddenly come. Why are they called hoofbeats? Because the presentation is done with 4 horses. As I said, first one was white, second one was red with a sword. First one was white, bloodless conquest through ideology. Second one was through political forcefulness with a sword, and the horse is red. Third one is a black horse, and in his hand the rider has a pair of scales. So it's all about commerce and trade. And the effect of the black horse phenomenon is that food shortage, famine, and food becomes exorbitant. Food, which should be the easily available commodity. I have already discussed in my clip number 92 how food became scarce, how in 1960 food was the major trading community, and how other commodities have overtaken food as a commodity. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last official post was as head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. My subject will have a little bit of hydroxychloroquine today, but mostly it's a little bit of reasonable, let's think together. Yes. So how the e-commerce boom, and the third horse is a black horse with the trademark of the scales, that is the most important influence in the world became consumerism, and therefore the trade, market driving government, market driving professions, market driving family life. Everything was up for sale. Sex, human body, children, pedophilia, nauseating a lot of stuff came into prominence. Everything was up for sale. That was the black horse phenomenon. Trading took over the world. The fourth horse is an ashen grey color. Something is the color of death. It's a ashen. It's like the color that grass has when you have kept some stones on the grass. The grass, dying grass, has a certain livid color, isn't it? A light yellowish color. That's the color of this horse, and it's the color of death. And the rider doesn't have any equipment in his hand. The first white horse rider had a bow. Second horse rider had a sword. Third horse rider had a pair of scales, balances. The fourth one doesn't have anything in his hand, but it is said death and evil stuff, inexplicable phenomena, plague will follow, plague particularly. So it's pandemics will follow when the fourth rider begins to be active. So why are the horses? They are very fast moving. Why is it called apocalyptic? They come from virtually nowhere, and you really don't, and it's apocalyptic proportions, meaning huge effects, and its origin is not clearly known, just like the Wuhan virus and the plague. Now you can trace the origin, but it had a certain mysterious angle to it, and the mystery increased when WHO said there's no human-to-human contact at the beginning, when it was so rapidly spreading and killing in Wuhan. So that's about this introduction and this e-commerce taking over everything. So the second point is small enterprises are shutting up, family stores can't go on. So the principle of enterprise of the individual is shifting increasingly not only to big corporates, which happened over the last 20-30 years, now it's happening to moguls, unseen oligarchs, who have got very, very rich because of the screen. Now, I am not adding any opinion of mine. I am only telling you what has happened so far. Then we find a season is coming when people have to do e-commerce. Here I will read that section. People are forced to do e-commerce. They cannot buy other than electronically. Now that is not fully come, but just wait and see. Just think what things are increasingly available. Initially, we are encouraged to buy electronically, cashless society and credit cards and electronic buying. Increasingly, it's seemingly voluntary, but increasingly, whether it will become a coercion, you have to buy that way. Now see this. This is what it is written. This is the phenomenon that is happening. It was given to him to have power to cause all the small and the great and the rich and the poor and the free men and the slave to be given a mark in their right hand and on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the person or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the ruler, for the number is that of a man, and his name is 666. So this symbol has been around for some time, but what it is saying is, from this voluntary appeal to go online and circumstances engineered for electronic buying and selling, would ultimately end up in a society where you have to do it with a certain digital passport. So there comes the necessity for the global vaccine to introduce a digital certificate that will act like a digital passport, saying these strains, these pandemics, this person has been vaccinated for, so he can come to work or he can go to a country or whatever. So you understand the digital passport. that is to be inserted, and the technology is available that is to be inserted on the right hand or on the forehead. Already in Sydney, for instance, in a pilot project, the dog's got a chip, so the owner can identify the dog. And then in US also this chip was introduced, which was a health policy. If you have a heart arrhythmia, this chip will dial, this SIM card will dial your GP's number, or it will direct you in the Google to the nearest hospital. So who would not want a chip like that? Now these are all voluntary schemes to get electronically controlled. Now I'm not talking theory or speculation, these have been happening. So watch the trends, where they are going, and you have to decide whether you like these trends or not. At this point it is ideological, it has not become geopolitically applied, but what is ideological we know will in time get applied, yes. So then whether e-commerce will become a coercion, we have to do it online. Fourthly, economies of nations worldwide have weakened. All nations have got weak. Not only I'm speaking from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Not only Sri Lanka, UK is tottering, and a very strong president in US, President Trump, after the COVID debacle, he is no more strong. So when nations are weakened, then the global oligarchs move to take the nation's wealth for nothing. For instance, nations have to sell out their national resources when a country goes into debt. So the best available things in a nation, without the sovereign nation being able to develop, because of the pandemic and the shutdowns, economic difficulties, nations will have to sell whatever they can sell, such as tea lands or whatever. So we are very keen this debacle will not happen in Sri Lanka. But these are the possibilities, yes. Then human interaction is being decreased systematically. So there was a Google boss speaking in New York City at the height of the COVID infection, saying it's best not children to come to work because humans are a hazard, biohazard. She used that word, humans are a biohazard. Let them wait at home and do isolated studies. So isolation, human interaction diminution, then a monitoring system to see that everybody keeps 2 meter distance. Now you will realize whether it is 1 meter or 2 meter is being changed. So increasingly it is said 2 meter distance. Now we will come to this 2 meter distance a little later. At this point you will have to agree that human interaction is being decreased. Families are coming under pressure to keep their children. Then digitization is increasing, point number 6. Digitization is increasing, kids isolated for screen because of studies, and they are all the time on digital gadgets because they have no fun time, they have no play time, they have no school time. So you need to think, is this intentional? This kind of isolation of human beings, not allowing human interaction widely, is it intentional? Seventhly, destruction of the family with sexualization, gay rights, abortions, LGBTQ, and digital screen isolating kids according to the digital games, and kids becoming more peer-centered rather than parent-centered or family-centered. So even between siblings, each man for himself and God for all kind of thing. So the family structure, which I believe God has given, is being dismantled. And a family has to have masculine gender, feminine gender, contributing father figure and mother figure. And when you disrupt that great design, you are disrupting family, the strongest bonding factor, where citizens are trained. Citizens are trained in the family, then in the school, then in work. Politics is only facilitation of all this. So when politics come to the fore and economics come to the fore, you disrupt what a citizen is made from: family, education and work. All those become arrangements of convenience for a season only, nothing permanent, nothing lasting, everything is jets and flotsam, no fidelity, no loyalty is the way the world is being pushed to. So that is the 7th point. Then the 8th, so the pressure on social relationships, all disrupting. The 8th point is an increase of dark spirituality on the web. Besides the dark web with horrible sexual material, the dark web also has dark spirituality, occult, very open worshipping of Satanism, and then blood sacrifices, children being sacrificed, children disappearing. So there is now always man is incurably religious. Different countries had different major religions, but over the last 30 years there's a great drivenness to worship darkness, worship evil. Now for a long time people at least knew even the word Satan was meant to be evil, personification of evil. You may or may not believe in a personal Satan, but everybody knew Satan meant an evil personality. But now Satanism is an alternative common form of worship, much promoted also the occult and the power play that goes on with it, the covens and all that is well established all over the Western world. So though the Western world said we are going science without God, actually they are worshipping something, because man has a vacuum that will make him to worship something. So that is the 8th point in my sociological analysis on this Monday musings, the dark spirituality which is going through a quite an avalanche of stuff. Then there's merchandise available on it, yes. Then the 9th point is, this is very important, every head of state is meant to look a buffoon. Now you may think this was done only to President Trump, and he's easily vulnerable to that kind of caricaturization, but it is not only President Trump. Boris Johnson is assailed. So the pandemic, nobody knows to handle a pandemic. Nobody has faced it before. We were not there in the Spanish flu. It came and went. So there is a design move to decapitate or diminish the head of state, and technocrats are considered the ones who know, technocrats. So everybody is saying politicians are useless, technocrats take over. Problem with technocrats is we don't see them. We only see a machine taking over. So as bad as politicians are, as some people say, you better stick with at least the better politicians than invisible power centers, oligarchs taking us over, is my take on it. Yes, manage with the best of your national politicians, don't dress them down, don't kill them, metaphorically speaking. I follow the battle in UK very closely. What a battle, what a battle. I follow UK because in school we received a lot of good from what British tradition had. Our school was founded by a British bishop, and we had a lot of English classics being taught to us. And UK, we know UK ruled the world, UK waved the rules, we know that. They thought they had a empire on which the sun will not set, but the sun set. Whatever it is, at least as a sovereign nation, Britain should thrive. So it is decimated piece by piece. No law and order at all. Any cause is good enough. So all slavery or whatever it is will be the melting point. There will be many kinds of irons stoking the fire, many kind of cooks cooking the soup or the broth of ruining sovereign nations. That's how it's going. If it's allowed in our nation, one thing or the other will be used. Either health will be used, human rights will be used, or foolish racial antagonism will be used. Every nation must look after all its people equally if we are not to fall a prey to global meanderings and global warmongering. We have to look after our own. So I took some time to present it to you that heads of states are being decimated, and in it you will see a new pattern emerging, not the old West and the Cold War, but those heads of state who are saying we need a global control. The old politics will not work. All must be together. So if you look France is saying that. So there will be a difference of all allies not being allies anymore. Watch and see. New allies forming, and those allies will prefer to work with China, who is already saying we are the global giant, and do their manufacture in China. I have addressed this subject, and they will not talk about Chinese labor laws and Chinese human rights violations, and Chinese cities are absolutely polluted industrial zones. Human beings can't breathe there, but profit can be made, and a massive technological global tech control can be launched. So you will find some Western heads of state saying that's the way to go. Then on the other hand, you find in Netherlands a very strong movement about the doctors saying we must have our own rights to decide vaccine or not, mask or not. And I'm not talking about the validity of the epidemiology. I'm talking about the phenomenon where countries where the national view is becoming strong, like in Sweden, and other countries who are relapsing or slowly falling into line with global control. Traditional allies like US and Canada are now poles apart because the head of state, the two heads of state, think completely differently. Yes. So President Trump may not be he has his problems, but he may not be the ultimate problem. Ultimate problem might be a manipulation to get into every sovereign nation, and nations lose their citizens, nations lose their rights, nations lose their wealth, and all the time global experts are telling a nation what to do, and foolishly nations don't listen to their local experts. So this is the way it is. We watch the scene, and Belgian Medical Association, the doctors have put out a very learned treatise on how they think this pandemic should be handled. So those nations have raised an independent view, contrary to the mass mood, hysteria, lockdown, shutdown. I've already quoted two academic treatises, World Doctors Alliance, headed by Professor Dolores Cahill, a lady from Ireland, and the Great Barrington Declaration, headed by three well-known reputed epidemiologists, including Professor Sunetra Gupta of Oxford. So this is about the heads of states made to look buffoons, made to look incompetent. So people will say, let someone properly qualified take over the nation. Tech qualified, yes. Then the 10th point would be global media assail government response anyhow, anyway. So you will observe papers like Guardian is always against the nation, against their own nation. CNN is another media outlet which is like that. Forbes, Bloomberg, they all give the global view. It's very difficult to find a newspaper or news media that speaks for its own nation for well-being, hope and expectation. Constantly the story is gloom and doom to the nation. Much better tech fellows must take over. The invisible big brother must take over. So that's about global media assailing every government's response. And then global media have a censorship, Facebook and Twitter on the dock for suppressing some evidence about the other presidential candidate. Right or wrong, who is right is not the issue. It was done. There's a censorship of media by the media moguls, fake media moguls. We saw it with the hydroxychloroquine battle. Anything pro-hydroxychloroquine, within 48-72 hours is taken off the screen, though experts in their field and frontline doctors are speaking. 11th point, who is really advising the government? Check out the scientists that are advising the government. Now they have come to a reputed position. Now the World Doctors Alliance is openly alleging that the two professors mainly advising the government has been profiting from investments in pharmacological companies. So when they keep advising the government not to give hydroxychloroquine, who profits from it? Yes. So that has to be considered. Do a little research in each nation how the one who is in control of the government CDC, infectious disease control management, what are his politics? For instance, the chief editor of Lancet, Landry, Professor Landry, he's frequently on the Chinese prime time television, and many of them have done many trips to China, funded by China or drug companies. Then CDC, Dr. Fauci, is the owner of the protein spreadsheet for vaccines, which he patented some time ago. So every vaccine that needs proteins to be added has to go his way. They have to pay him any vaccine. So when in the recent vaccine, Gavi, that is Bill Gates' company, is having a bit of a tug-of-war with CDC, long-standing partners, because the Gavi vaccine, Moderna, is trying to do without the protein spreadsheet that Dr. Fauci has the patent for. Whereas the one they are trying out with AstraZeneca will have to use the protein spreadsheet. So besides what looks like science, there's a whole lot of non-science for profit. But the point I'm making at this 11th point is, just check out which scientists are advising their government and what their financial interests are behind their advice. Point number 12, fake science has taken over a lot of academia, funds buy up the academics. So the Oxford Recovery Trial, Professor Hobby, if you go into his pharmacological interest, you will find they have companies and they receive funds from Gilead and other pharmacological bodies. So you have to mind that. 13th point I have to bring forward is the role of entertainment in this global agenda, global arena, and in the global warfare. So you know, there are famous entertainment figures. They propagate the gay agenda, abortion agenda, vaccine agenda. They have no scientific knowledge, but they have become mind controllers with their influence on the entertainment scene, mediated via the media. I'm not giving a moral talk on this. I have my moral views on the way entertainment is going. I am giving you the effect of influence that is influencing policy decisions and which way the world is going. So we are at the 13th point. My 14th point is the empire strikes back, the system strikes back, the global interests overcome and swallow up national interests, which was best seen in the HCQ battle, how it was run down, and remdesivir was run up. With there's no issue of gold standard clinical trials, no issue of so many trials, including the Solidarity WHO trial said remdesivir does not work. But then, how to get remdesivir to be known? Give President Trump remdesivir. So that's what happened. Before any clinical trial, President Trump got remdesivir, and now remdesivir is touted as the most effective drug. Hydroxychloroquine for a person will cost less than $10. All our patients who are symptomatic are getting hydroxychloroquine. I am trying to get them to decide that don't wait for PCR to be positive. 3 people have died before the PCR came, and better give when contact history is strong likelihood of COVID, and immunocompromised or diabetes or very fat or hypertension, there are comorbidities, to give hydroxychloroquine before PCR arrives. Yes, that's my suggestion. So I'm on the 14th point of how the empire strikes back. Then to it I have added economies shutting down, lockdown, nations becoming poor and having to sell their national assets if it goes on like this, and then the globalists are very ready to come and take over the national assets, tea lands, best beauty spots, best hotels, hospitality industry, fishing industry, ports, roads, anything. So, then the 15th point I'm at is, I think I did this, Satanism and the dark worldwide revival of dark religion. Yes, I have taken it up already. I go to the 16th point, head of states who want globalist oligarchs to rule. So new alliances are forming. I'm repeating myself here. Watch even in the Western nations who will go China-wards, because clearly the battle lines are aligning. Putin is Vladimir Putin. He's waiting with, he's quite cunning with his wisdom. He's waiting to see what's happening in US. The US is making an alliance with India, and our best interests will be served if we don't violate India's interests. That's my own personal opinion. And India in all of this has come out quite well. In spite of, there are 1.2 billion, so 100,000 or 200,000 infected is not a big thing. They are treating everybody with hydroxychloroquine. Their death rates are relatively low. They gave hydroxychloroquine to 40,000 of their frontline health workers, and they think 70% of infection among health workers have been kept out because of hydroxychloroquine. So India, as you know, have their Indian Council of Medical Research, very up to date. They decide for themselves, Indian scientists. I really salute them here. So heads of state who love global oligarchs to take over nations. 17, the vaccine. Now this drivenness of Wuhan virus made viruses gain on function, and then the made epidemic. Now lots of stuff are out. So I'm only saying I'm convinced that there is a pandemic. You don't have to be, but you have to watch why the vaccine, why so many vaccines, and why this push for a global vaccine. So they have the people say that is for a digital certificate. So there will be a digital capsule that says you have been vaccinated for so many viruses or whatever. For travel or to come to work, you have to have your digital certificate, which will be your digital marker. That is about the vaccine bringing rise to a digital certificate. Now here is the completely gray area. I have no authority on this. I'll only just let you know. People are saying there are metal particles in the vaccine that is being prepared, and that metal particle makes a human being an antenna for 5G. I don't know whether this is true. I'm only telling you the story. Antenna for 5G. So that means what they are saying is then this 2 meter distance is necessary. Then 5G technology can identify people one by one with facial features. If it's less than 2 meters and you're crowding, you can't be identified separately in a group. So for whatever digital control they want to have a populace, this is mooted, it is said. As I said, I don't know. 5G is not my expertise. I also only know from what I have been reading and gathering. Some of you may be better at judging whether this is true of 5G or not. Of course, we know 4G, 3G all had certain medical effects, whether 5G with higher megahertz rotations have worse medical effects, so people claim. Please read it up. But you might want to know is that Switzerland national scientists got together, European Union national scientists got together, and they petitioned European Union not to go ahead with 5G when they were getting foreign experts again, above local experts, to put 5G in place. That is there. You can look at the European Union petition against 5G, the European Union scientists. So there is some issue. Then we come to point number 19, immunity invasion. I did this last time also. All new vaccines keep our immunity on edge. We are already reacting as if a pathogen is inside us, which means we get immunocompromised. So when we get COVID-like infection, we overreact with the cytokine storm. Most deaths during COVID reaction was because of uncontrolled immune overreaction. So we need to guard against it. This talk is a survey of all the facts. You need to go back to my earlier specific clips to know different facts. So if you ask from me, send me a clip about vaccine, I'll send you a clip about virus or the vaccine or the hydroxychloroquine, where I have done extensively on that subject alone. This is a survey. So my WhatsApp number is +94 77 49 59 214. I have clips on digital science, happy hour for family, COVID science, science and reason. This one would go probably like a science and reason. So this is only a survey, not deep. If you want the deep ones, ask specifically and send me a WhatsApp message or on my Facebook. So that is the immunity invasion that is happening. So I told you this before, that COVID infection was worst in the belt, temperate belt, that had flu shots being given more than once a year. Once a year also it has an immune compromise that comes in. If it had been given more than once a year, then there were many problems. In chapter point number 20, I have read to you a little passage about how pandemics will come, and in 1 hour, let me read it again, in 1 hour cities will shut down. For this reason, in one day her plagues will come, pestilence, mourning and famine. Standing at a distance because the fear of the torment, the great city Babylon, strong city, in 1 hour the trouble has come. 3-4 times you get this in 1 hour. For in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste, and every shipmaster and every passenger and sailor are astounded, and they threw dust on their heads and were crying out, weeping, because the great city, because in 1 hour her riches and wealth have been laid waste. So this thing about a sudden pandemic, plague, pestilence, causing an economic upheaval and shutdown of so many cities in 1 hour was the emphasis. 21. All buying and selling, I read that before, needing a digital passport or a digital chip recognition. I have done that. Finally, point number 22, real dangerous things to watch. I told you already, immune destruction, the genetic modulation or engineering of food stuff that will have effects on our genome, then other ways of destroying our genome, then nanomolecular technology interfering with the molecular designs that nature has, then artificial intelligence, then aliens with mixed genomes, they are trying it out, then the assault on sexuality and the pedophilia. I feel these are terrible things that's ruining humanity more than other things. So I have done this before. So if we make science God, and if man doesn't think he has to be accountable for the resources and the life he has received, he will play God, he will play Hitler. So that is where we are heading. So it's a moral choice to make, whether we need a good shepherd who can direct us and make us, what shall I say, good shepherd looks after a flock of sheep, and sheep consider each other. Recently I found that when even a wolf comes into their midst, the sheep quickly surround the one who got fearful. So sheep have a way of considering each other. I have done this before. Goats butt each other. So you need to consider life without a good shepherd and life with a good shepherd. I have told you this before. But at the time I became first in the island in the advanced level examination, I didn't think I needed anybody, any good shepherd or any close friend, because knowledge was my God and I was pretty good at knowledge. But I am thankful that certain set of circumstances changed my thinking. I found as my brain became more and more brilliant, my heart just shrank into a corner. I could just live with books, facts, data, dictionaries. That's what I was about, yes. And I would create an argument out of nothing. I was in the college debating team, both English and Sinhala. So argument was my way, not to fight, just as an intellectual exercise, but through a certain series of events, I realized this brain brilliant thing is not making man better. I needed a different heart. And then I got to know the Good Shepherd. I will recommend that to you, but we'll meet again. Today was Monday, music. It was a wide range of subjects. We'll get down to deep ones. Please send me a WhatsApp message or contact me on Facebook if you need something more detailed.